We don't really know where the world is gonna go, but now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep. But now everybody knows. Got to keep.
You don't have to be retired to receive tax-free income. The problem is the vehicles that we've been conditioned to believe to help get us there were never designed to produce income.
Got to keep on. What you want to be going, you will see.
Oh, yes.
It's your destiny, be in harmony. We were never meant to be apart. What you want to be going, you will see. You can have everything you want. It's your destiny, be in harmony.
If you had a machine in your garage and all you had to do was put a quarter in it and it printed out $100, put a quarter in it, printed out $100, would you ever stop that machine from running?
But now everybody knows.
So what if you use that job that you hate as leverage to fill your machine so they can create income for you, so you don't have to worry about income?
Really know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep going.
Welcome. We've had such a good week already. We went to an event this weekend and we met so many new people. But the one thing that we were talking about consistently was this 401k, right? The belief in the 401k, how you could leverage the 401k, what you can't do with the 401k. And of course, that's a lot of the topic that we discuss, but mainly where people have their faith shook, I guess you could say, when they learn things about these traditional trusted retirement plans, things that are supposed to and that we're supposed to trust in to secure our future financially. I mean, that's really what the majority of the conversations were about, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Right, we were spent our time this weekend educating a few folks. I think it was room maybe 60 people or so, and I love social media and their algorithms because just because we started talking about 401ks, now I'm getting these ads about people who don't like 401ks, and I started getting bombarded with 401k is a scam. Why do you have a 401k? Hey, come over here and buy my thing because 401k, you don't want to have that. You know, you're stupid if you have that. It's like, I don't think these people know really what they're talking about. So just wanted to kind of get in here and address this. Usually after an event, we do a Q&A because we're both pretty worn out. And, we've done a lot of talking about IRAs and 401k stuff, but the algorithm, I think, kind of forced us to kind of move down this path to let's talk about this 401k being a scam.
Yeah, this is something that we can't really unpack because if we would to unpack all of this in one event, it would have to be our event, right? And
But
maybe
that's a great point. Yes, absolutely.
yeah, and I think maybe that's where we're kind of going. We're headed in this direction because I think we could probably do a 3-day event on all of the things that we talk about just to help people build like a solid plan by the end of that 3 days. That would be a really cool thing, I think. But
Right.
in order for them to really fully understand, because a lot of the questions are like, hold on a second, you said something and I really need you to unpack this for me because it was hard for me to listen to anything else you said beyond this point because I was so struck by what you said. Somebody said if I could just have a camera at the front of the room watching all the faces when you are introducing this information and the jaws that are just dropping on the floor, right? I mean, that's essentially what they were experiencing. One day you're feeling like you're checking all the boxes. You got an A+ in adulting, right? And part of that reason is your faithful contributions or into your 401k or IRA. And then the next day you learn what's behind the curtain and your confidence in your financial future is completely shaken. And that's why tonight we're going to tackle a big question. Is the 401k a scam? Here's a twist. What we're talking about tonight is less about the 401k and more about who and what are behind it. Our goal by the end of this stream is to help you understand who really profits from your retirement savings and how you can take control of your financial future. That's always our goal, right? But before we dive in, if you haven't yet, give us a like, subscribe, and be sure to jump in the chat and tell us where you're from. If you have any questions, type a Q before your questions so that we can easily identify it and pull it up for later. And this will be a Q&A, so if you have a question that's not related to this topic, that's okay. We're going to go through this information as quickly as possible, but if you have a question in the meantime that gets jogged or you want to make sure that it gets up in the queue, then go ahead and put a Q in front of it, and then we'll get to it at the Q&A section. You ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, sounds good. Let's go.
I think I saw a question out there. Hey, is this a vibe board? And it absolutely is a vibe board. And it's funny. I wasn't a big fan, but I must say, again, this is one of those moments where my wife was just absolutely right. That we needed it. It's funny, and again, I'm digressing for a minute, but a lot of what sent us down this path is I was used to watching a lot of velocity banking people. And if you watch a lot of velocity banking videos, they're all on the whiteboard. So I was like, sure, I could jump on a whiteboard. I know my handwriting is horrible. So I know it's not something that you would want to see, but I assumed I would end up with some whiteboard behind me. And she was like, we're not doing that.
Well,
We need a
I'm just
whiteboard. So.
I'm just a visual learner, and I knew that this would be a great way, a better way of conveying that information. So I'm excited for them to learn what you've got for them tonight. And if this is something that you already knew, matter of fact, I bet you'll learn something new tonight.
Love it.
I put money on it.
So 6 reasons the 401k is a scam. Or is it something else? Meaning, is it that your 401k is a scam? Or is there something else behind the 401k? Because let's just think about it. What is the 401k? It's just a retirement account, right?
Right.
And so we want to first dive into number one. The first, I'll call it up.
Nope, you're good. I'll move you.
Okay. So the first reason a 401k is a slam. The first reason a 401k is a scam is because of the whole deferral of taxes thing. And if you've been on this channel a while and you know how I speak, I am all for making sure we pay our taxes today so that tomorrow, when taxes are due, we have no taxes to pay because the vehicle that has been growing our funds over time has been growing tax-free. So I'm all for living in a Roth environment. But from the perspective of the majority thinks that deferring your taxes is a scam. Well, again, as the question asks, who actually tells us to do this? Where in the 401k code or the 401 code does it say you have to do this? What you're provided are options. You're provided options for a retirement vehicle to defer your taxes. But is it the 401k that said you should do this? And as it relates to the 401k, is the 401k the only product that offers you the opportunity to defer your taxes? Is it the only one? It's not. There are many vehicles out there that say, hey, you know what? If you choose to, you can defer your taxes. Now, the question is, when you walk into work, did you get that option? When you got hired on that job, were you provided an option to have a Roth 401k or a traditional 401k, an option to defer your taxes or pay your taxes up front so that you can build a tax-free dollars? Were you given that option? Because the option exists in the vehicle, but why weren't you given that option? Who benefits from you not having that option? So that's the first thing to think about.
Well,
go ahead.
Okay, well, wait. Before you do that, just for those who aren't aware of why the 401k was even created in the first place, I think that's even more important. We didn't always have this as an option, right? So that's first and foremost.
Right. So there is absolutely a history of the 401k,
right? And we won't go through the entire history, but if you want to learn about the history of these retirement plans, when they came into the mix and how they were introduced and the problem that they were said to have been a solution for, you might want to check out the history of the retirement plans. We did this as a Wizard of Oz series, and it's pretty fascinating once we had connected the dots that how they came into the picture was very much like the characters in the Wizard of Oz, and the entire narrative behind that story, that movie, fits for the history of retirement plans. And so if you look at the thumbnails as you're going down the live streams page, you'll be able to find that. And we'd love to know what you think about that too. So far, the majority of people who have seen it have really appreciated, and it's something that you can't unsee. But the point that I'm trying to make is, why did this exist in the first place? And it was not the deferral of taxes, right? It
Right.
wasn't
Again,
pitched as that.
it is just a retirement vehicle. There's many vehicles out there. And again, the 401k is a scam is the way it's presented. The 401k is the problem is the way it's presented. And all I'm challenging is, well, who's telling you to defer your taxes? Is it the 401k that's requiring you to do this? Because I don't think that it is. That's all.
Yeah. Scam
And
for who? Okay.
right, it's a scam for who? And so, and second reason, or the second item, I guess we'll talk about, is the employer match. And these two actions actually go together. The employer match, who benefits from the employer match? Like, what is the employer match? Why does it even exist in the first place? And what are the benefits of having an employer match? And I'll highlight this before I kind of break down these details, but I called it the 3 T's. Although yeah, I'll leave it like that. I call it the 3 T's, although there aren't 3 T's here. It's tax, talent, and distraction. But I'm calling that T a distraction. I mean, that distraction.
Okay, go off. All
But
right.
anyway, what do I mean? So, what are the benefits of your employer matching a dollar that you're contributing to your retirement account? What's the benefit to the employer? Well, the first case is it's a tax benefit, meaning the match that they're providing to you to your retirement account is considered compensation. Because it's considered compensation, that allows your employer to reduce their tax liability. So they don't want you to pay your taxes today. They want you to defer your taxes till tomorrow, while they do what? Take the tax benefit today.
Yeah, what does that mean?
That means that they are reducing their tax liability while you're increasing yours.
Right.
And talent. If I was going to work for a company and company A offered a 401k with a match, and company B did not offer a 401k versus a match, or I was thinking of leaving this job, one of the items they use to help retain talent and also hire talent is the match, and it's differing percentages, right? 3%, 5%, 10%, 100%. But they use this as a I'll call it a vehicle, a marketing vehicle to bring you in. And then the last piece is a distraction. This is absolutely of a, hey, watch over here while I do this over there. Meaning, pay attention to what it is. And I think they described it as, when I was kind of researching this, they described it as keeping employees happy.
Right.
Meaning the match is designed for you to leave work working those 80 hours when you should have worked 40 hours and go, you know what, man, but my employer also matched those other 40 hours and I am receiving a benefit.
Yeah,
But
it's
I want to
weird.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
But I want to peel back the layers a little bit on what that match looks like. And it starts here. So, are you aware, or did you know, that 81% of all of us, 81% of this country participates in a 401k? 81%. And of that 81%, there's approximately $38 trillion tied up in retirement accounts. Of that $38 trillion, 53% is held by Fidelity and Vanguard. Now, there are other custodians out there. There's other banks out there. There's Morgan Stanley, Edward Jones. Like there's hundreds of others. But between just these two hold 53% of the $38 trillion of retirement dollars throughout the country. And again, 81% of us have money in this vehicle. What am I getting at? Well, if laws are going to be changed and updated to benefit you, how does that happen? What happens through lobbyists? Lobbyists go to our Congress and they say, hey, we need these things. If 53% of all retirement dollars are held by two companies, who is driving the decisions being made as it relates to your retirement account? Is it you? It's not. It's those who have the leverage, hopefully one of the things you take away from today is it's about leverage. As of today, Fidelity and Vanguard have a fair amount of leverage over how things are made or how rules are decided as it relates to your retirement dollars. So when we talk about a match and we understand, hey, what's the root of that match? The root is to create a tax benefit for your employer, to help retain talent, bring in good talent, but it's also a distraction for what? It's a distraction so that the company that is offering the match is reducing their tax liability, and the company that's holding the match, the company that's holding your retirement dollars, are also benefiting. So again, is it the 401k, or is it or is it who it's with? And one of the pieces that I wanted to note here, just try to make this bigger, is for every dollar that you contribute into your 401k, and that dollar is being matched by your employer. So for every dollar being contributed, your employer comes along and pays you 90% less if you're male, 99% less if you're female. What does that mean? Okay, if the company is matching me for a certain for a dollar, what that's saying is, instead of that dollar being an additional amount that's being added to my gross salary as an incentive, over time, what they end up doing is not when I get that promotion, instead of it being 7%, it's 3.5%. Instead of that promotion being 15% because I went from an executive to a director, instead of it being a 20% promotion, it ends up being 15. My point is, they are intentionally holding back what they would be providing to you as a salary to compensate for the match. So not only are they taking the tax benefit up front, you're deferring your taxes. But in addition, when that match comes, they're not even paying you a dollar for dollar match. It's about a 90 cents as a male, a 99% female difference, which means what's that arbitrage? What's that spread? We're talking about pennies on the dollar is what's actually growing inside of your account. And again, is this the 401k's problem? Or is it those who control how the 401k is processed, performed, structured? Who is it? Where's the scam? Again, is it the 401k? Is it the 403b? Is it the TSP? Or is it those who have control over it? All right. Third item.
So,
Go ahead, sweetheart.
so I was just gonna say, you're really, if you're not selling that the 401k is a scam, I'm having a hard time doing the math.
Because, well, again, the 401k is a vehicle. That vehicle is being, I'll call it extorted by the company you work for and the company that holds it. The assumption is that 401k has to be sitting with Fidelity and Vanguard. It does not. It just happens to be. And the rules that you are living by within your 401k is not a result of the 401k. It's a result of the company that you work for and how they have decided to structure that 401k. That's my point. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yep. So would there be a way for them to find out, like to verify that? Because I think from a employee standpoint, they're going now, well, what would I do with the rest of that money if I could just opt out then, right?
Yeah,
Opt
well,
out and do my own thing. How could I find out what that would look like if I had the
definitely
option?
what we don't do is show the problem and then not share a solution.
Oh, okay. Stand by.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
but remember, the purpose of today is to highlight the 6 reasons why the 401k is a scam. We're only at 3.
Yeah. Okay. You froze for me.
Up. Am I okay
Okay.
now?
Yeah. I think you're good. Okay.
Yep.
Carry
Okay.
on.
So broker fees. Broker fees being 1 to 2%. And this is actually framed as a good thing. Like, your broker only charges a 1% fee. Your broker only charges a 2% fee. In some cases, it's even higher. But what does that broker fee translate to over time? Over time, what does that look like? And now, the purpose of this stream today is the 6 reasons why the 401k is a scam. These broker fees, if you were to go to the IRS code, the 401 IRS code, Where are broker fees in that code? It doesn't exist. These fees are added to your 401k. By who? By the custodian that's holding your 401k. And so who imposed these fees? It's a partnership between the employer that you work for and the custodian that holds it. Now, again, I get it. There's not much control you have. The purpose of this isn't to share with you, hey, don't do something. It's to understand the best I can do for you is help you understand where these actions, where these fees are coming from. I want you to understand the foundation, the basis, the why. So that way you can take some action going forward. And then regardless of market performance, these fees are taken. So let's talk about traditional retirement accounts. When the market is doing great, the retirement account does great. But when the market crashes, you feel the full brunt of that market crash. So regardless of whether the market does well or not, those fees are being taken. And those fees translate this 1 to 2% compounded over time. Compounding fees, again, compound interest. If you don't understand compound interest, I guarantee you someone is making compound interest off you. These 1 to 2% fees compounded over time translates to 2/3 of your retirement account being eaten up by fees. So let's see here, let me do that. So what I'm saying here is your broker or your custodian
Or both.
or both are controlling 2/3 of your retirement account, meaning that comes to them over time. This is you. What's left is yours. So if you had access to all of your retirement, would things be so grim? But if 2/3 of your retirement is being eaten up by fees and only 1/3 of it is left for you, that means there's a lot of work to do. But hold on, we don't stop there. This 1/3 that's left for you, oh, my bad. This 1/3 that's left for you, there's also market risk, meaning whether you do or don't make income or grow your account depends on how the market does. And in addition, if you chose to access your funds prior to retirement age, there's also a penalty. So not only do you only get 1/3 of your retirement account, but the hit just keeps on hitting, meaning depending on what the market does or doesn't do, and depending on when you do or don't want to touch your money, you may have a little bit left. But hold on, we're still not finished. Of this amount, there's still that tax implication. And still the market that's impacted. So this is where you have the potential of ending up. But I go back to, is it the 401k that said you have to put me in the stock market? Or is it the company that you're with and the custodian that holds it that says these are the mutual fund stocks and bonds that we allow you to put your money in? If it was possible that you could move your 401k out of these mutual fund stocks and bonds, could you beat this? Would you be as impacted? Is that the 401k's fault? Did the 401k choose this process? I don't think they did. Which brings me to, I'll put these two together. My 401k is trapped till I retire. And I think this one is pretty simple. What's the purpose of having a 401k or a 403b or a TSP? What is the point? The point is to assist you in retirement. And per the IRS, retirement age is 59 and a half. And so your funds being trapped, that's true. Meaning you can't touch your funds until 59 and a half. Now, 401ks, most 403bs and TSPs offer a personal loan option or some type of, I think it's called distressed or, if there's a designated need and it fits whatever that criteria is, you could access some portion of the dollars. But in most cases, your money is tied up until you retire. But that's the point. The objective is to be able to put my money away in a vehicle that's building compound interest over time so that I can leverage, use it, in perpetuity, so I don't have to work for the rest of my life. Like that's the goal. So it being trapped in retirement, yeah, that's true. But where is it trapped? It's trapped in the market. And in most cases, the myth behind the stock market is there's this, I'll call it unrealistic 10 to 12% growth that you get from having your money in the market. But what's the actual performance of your money in the market? And this is all stuff that you can Google. This is not information that I just made up. The myth is that because this is a retirement account, that somehow your money is secure. But the two don't even those two things don't actually go together. Meaning, retirement account, I am putting my money in a vehicle that is building compound interest over time, and I'm going to use it at the point that I retire. Meaning, I need a vehicle that is a bit more secure, that I don't have to worry about losing the money that's in it, so that when I need the money the most, it's available. But that vehicle that I'm using to build retirement is tied to the stock market. Is the stock market secure? How does the stock market work? Where is your money that's sitting in these retirement accounts sitting in the stock market? And also, what's the most important piece as it relates to retirement? Is it how much you have, or is it how much you can spend? And I think when we talk about the vehicles that our retirement accounts are in, or the systems that our retirement accounts are in, we lose sight of the goal. If the goal is retirement income, not retirement net worth, the goal is retirement income, then what we're looking for is how to maximize the most possible to be able to spend. So it brings up this piece. Most people don't realize where their 401k is actually sitting. And I know it's a lot of words on this slide. The purpose isn't to read this to be able to read it. What I just wanted to share with you is your 401k in most cases, as a result of the relationship between the company that you work for and the custodian that has it, Fidelity, Vanguard, and such, they're in what's called a target date fund. What it means is based off your age, there is a algorithm that says, hey, this is how we should invest these dollars so that by the time you hit retirement age, you could be able to take a distribution and you would have funds there to be able to leverage. And in most cases, during these ages, let's call it 25 to 35, 40, you're pretty aggressive, meaning your 401k is sitting, or 401k, 403b, TSP are sitting in mutual funds and they are aggressively trying to get the maximum amount of performance. But as you hit that 45 age and you move towards age, I'll call it 50, or you're approaching retirement, I'll call it mix between what you were currently investing in and what you need to be investing in as you get older shifts. And that adjustment looks something like this. Hey, we need to become this aggressive state that we were in. We need to move to something that's a little bit more secure. So let's transition from mutual funds and stocks to more bonds, because bonds are a bit more secure. But let's think about it. What is the purpose of this account again? The purpose is for retirement. And it's not retirement net worth, it's retirement income. So if the objective is I need the maximum amount of income, the concept of the target date fund says I'm going to grow it at its highest, at its maximum amount during the accumulation period. But in the distribution period, I'm going to slow down so that I can withdraw 4% every year for the rest of my life. It's backwards. The thought process is backwards. If I am in need of the income later in life, shouldn't that be the point where I am growing at the maximum amount so that I can receive the maximum amount as income?
Well, you did.
But this process is built backwards, because in the target date fund, when you hit this age, it's intentionally you're intentionally moved from from aggressive stocks, mutual funds, and bonds, or mutual funds and stocks, into more bond related performance vehicles, so that you reduce the risk. Go ahead,
Right. But
sweetheart.
what I'm saying is you did grow at a rate that would have made sense regardless.
Absolutely.
If you had let's say you achieve $1 million in your retirement account. Like that's the ultimate goal. It's still the goal even since the 90s, right? Even since the 80s, matter of fact, that was always the goal. $1 million in retirement, you'll have enough for the rest of your life, that and a safeguard against inflation. That's what's said. However, in order for you to achieve $1 million in your retirement funds, you would have had to have actually grown $3 million in your retirement fund. So my point is, if they would not have been siphoning off all of these fees, you would have
Oh, absolutely.
plenty of
100%.
money in there. The other issue is their fees, their commissions that were taken are not subject to the market loss. They already took them. They're already out. They're already in their accounts. So if they reinvested them, fine, then whatever, market conditions apply to that, but that's not your business. The point is the money is already out of your hands at that point. The other part is the taxes, right? So your job got to take the tax deduction today. Let's just say you've been putting in since the year 2000. You got to pay the tax rate in 2000. You got to reduce your taxable income or profits for your company in 2000. However, the money that they put in there, not only did they, so it's like a double dip. They got to reduce their taxes. They got to reduce what they were actually paying you. But what is the amount that you actually got by the time it grew, by the time fees were taken out, and then 20, 30 years later with inflation and taxes taken out, did you actually gain anything? What did you actually gain? So this is what happened in 2008. I guess it's over here now. 2008, when the housing market crashed, and there was a ton of people who had done everything that they were supposed to do. They've even paid the 2/3 in fees, right? They were ready to pay the taxes, deferred, of course, but they were ready to do what was required because they had fed into the system, and now they were ready to retire. They had almost paid off their homes. Like if you were to grade them based off of adulting, they were like A+++, right? Like they were shining examples of how the American dream was working for them, right? So then the housing market crashed, the stock market crashed. They have now not even half of what they had inside of their mutual fund or their 401k, IRA, doesn't matter. Half, it's now worth half, right? In addition, they had planned on leveraging their home and downsizing. Now they can't because their home they didn't have the equity that they were relying on either. This was so devastating. And although it's fair to say that we hope we never see anything that like what happened in 2008, the reason why it's so important to understand is that everybody had already gotten the benefit. There was no impact to them. They are not tied to our outcomes, which is why we have to take control. So whether it be an aggressive build in the beginning so that you can be more conservative in the end, or whatever strategy is applied to those things, it's really not mitigating risk at that point. Really, it's mitigating the amount of hands that are in your pockets. That's what it is. It's saying here, up here, there's a lot, and you may not notice it as much, but it's a lot. And then down here, it makes it seem like it's not a lot, but because the amounts are bigger, it's still a lot, right? These people win on top of wins on top of wins. They win regardless of if you lose. That's the point. So whether or not the 401k is a scam, I think how it was set up, who it was set up for, is the scam. It was sold as the individual retirement account, right? It was sold as something that you can control, yet you don't even own it. Until you leave the job, you don't even own it. You have to ask permission to use it. You have to ask permission to roll it over. And if they say no, it's literally a fight to get control of these things, but it's yours, right? But it's yours. So I think what it was intended to do was to place the responsibility on the individual when it first came out. These corporations were going under. They were trying to pay these pensions. Pensions were the retention tactic back then, right? Here's the pension that you get if you stay here and you invest with this company all of the years that are required. Then you get this pension. That was a sell. These companies were like, we can't do this anymore. We can't guarantee this anymore, especially when it was tied to spouses too, right? So now you get to be in control. You get to be responsible for all of this, but you also get all of the risk. You also have none of the upfront benefit, none of the guarantees that everybody else who's tied to this account gets. So,
And none of the control.
right, exactly. Right. So I don't hear where this is not a scam because it was never designed for the end user. It was never designed for the person that it was sold to in the first place.
Well,
And
let's see
one
though, because again, you're jumping ahead of yourself. You're confusing the custodian and the employer and the actions that they've taken with the vehicle and not the vehicle.
right, but it wasn't designed. It's not like they took control over the control that the employee ever had.
They
They never
never get
had that kind of control.
right because the employer decided to never provide that control, which they could.
Yeah, we've got to set ourselves up so that we are advocated for in spaces that in rooms that we don't even have to be in, right?
That's
That
it.
people
That's
have
it.
our backs or that we can have our own back. And it's not required that somebody have our back, if whether we are in the room or not. Talk about having a seat at the table or building your own table. It doesn't even matter at this point. As long as you have your seat and there's nobody who can pull it out from underneath you, like we have the control and we have the opportunity to create that today. Understanding why we have such faith in these systems is super important though, because as you start to learn that this exists, when you start to learn what's behind the curtain, then you have to now do the math on how do I feel about this, and now what do I do because I don't feel confident making a move. That's the part that is so crippling for a lot of people, is like, what do I do now that I know all of this, because I had full confidence in the system and what I thought I was doing to secure my financial future, right?
Well, let's get there because the
Okay.
last item, because we've talked about a few things, right? We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about tax deferral, tax deferral being the first reason, the employee match being the second reason, fees, the fee structure being the third, your money being trapped in a retirement account, and then the last one we just finished was myths inside of the market. But the other piece is the result of all of that. Again, if this is a retirement account, and if this retirement account is designed to produce income for you, why is it why is it that the max that I can take as of today out of my retirement account as a distribution is 4%? And again, this 4% right here, this is designed to help you. Like this is a very intentional number. And this intentional number is based off a little study called the Trinity study. And it was the study that was done back in, what is it, 1997 or somewhere around the mid 90s or mid to late 90s when companies stopped providing pensions. And as a result of companies no longer providing pensions, there was a study that was done that said, based off the 401k, what is the maximum you can take in income so that you don't run out of money? And that result was 4%. And that's back then. You think the 4% still stands today based off what inflation is and based off what salaries are or are not? It isn't, but it's still. If you go to Vanguard, you go to Fidelity, you go to Morgan Stanley, you go to any of the traditional retirement vehicles or any financial advisors who work for those traditional retirement vehicles, they all base the income that you're going to receive out of your retirement on the same thing, and that is the 4% rule. But let's be clear: this is a rule, which means you can't go to irs.gov and find anything about this 4% rule. Who determined this? Well, actually, it's just a rule that was adopted by these financial institutions. So it's not a law. It's not something that's set in stone. It's something that was applied to traditional retirement planning. Why? Why is that? Why is this rule even applied? Why is this rule a thing? And it's very simple. You think your 401k is a retirement account. What happened? You think your 401k is a retirement account and it implies that, hey, I'm putting money away for future use. But in truth, your 401k is tied to a vehicle that is in the market, which means it's not a retirement vehicle because retirement implies security. It's not in a vehicle that's secure. It's based off a mathematical equation. It's, hey, when the market does great, I do great. But when the market crashes, I feel the impact of that. And then when the market takes off again, okay, I do well. But when the market crashes again, and that's whether whether we change presidents or someone flies a rocket to the moon, or eggs become $20 a dozen, it doesn't matter what happens. If someone sneezes in the market, I'm impacted by it. What about that implies a vehicle that's producing compound interest over time that will sustain my lifestyle? Your 401k is tied to this equation. And the biggest piece about this equation, I'll dig into the details of it, but the biggest piece about this equation is this minus sign. This minus sign in this equation says your account, this account that your money is invested in, is subject to risk. Meaning it might do well, it might not. It might do well, it might not. Well, what's the average of wins and losses? I'm winning, I lose. I'm winning, I lose. The average of winning and losses is a straight line. If we were truly focused on retirement, our objective would be, how do we eliminate this risk? Because if you can eliminate the risk, what you can actually start to produce is compound interest, which means your money makes money. And as your money's making money, even if the market crash, you just hold. And when the market takes off again, you take off again, which means, yeah, it may not be fast. Yeah, it may be slow, but it's steady, it's secure, and it's my money making money, and the money that my money makes more money. So the question is, can you get this equation, or I'm sorry, can you get your retirement account out of this equation and moved over to here? That's the question. Well, the difference between these two equations are very simple. It's this risk piece. So what we're saying is, can you put your money in a vehicle where you can pay yourself first? That A stands for pay yourself first. Not tomorrow, but today. Whether it's tax deferred or using Roth dollars, tax free, doesn't matter. It's pay yourself first, starting today, and it's about security. It's about putting your money in a position to where it is not subject to risk. And I get it. If we're talking about investments in general, investment implies risk. But are there some investments out there that have, I'll call it, less risk or reduced risk? So can you put your money in a vehicle where you can pay yourself first, starting today, somewhere secure, get your money compounding, and then exponentially grow it using leverage? There's that word, leverage, again. What is the company you work for? What's the company that you work for doing with your 401k? They're leveraging it. They're leveraging it to reduce their tax liability. The company that's holding your 401k, the custodian, the broker, Fidelity, Vanguard, Edward Jones, you name it. What are they doing with your 401k? They're leveraging it. They're leveraging it to do what? To build their portfolio, to grow their income, to pay their executives. Exactly. Why wouldn't your retirement dollars be doing the same thing? Well, it's not because of this feature. And again, is it the 401k that said you have to put it in the stock market? If you go to the irs.gov code, does it state you have to put this 401k into a vehicle that implies risk? It does not. So where did that expectation come from? It came from the company that you work for, because there's a benefit to them. It came from the custodian that has your funds. Why? Because it's a benefit to them. So what do you do? Is it that the 401k is a scam? Or is it that it's your employer who holds it, and it's the custodian and or the broker that's also, I'll call it, investing it?
So
Go ahead, sweetheart.
why, sorry. So why is this legal for them to do this? If the whole idea was to make sure and to ensure that you had enough for your future, so that when in the event that you had to stop working, in the event that you aged out, in the event that you put in your time, right? Like you did your time in the workplace, you put in the work, and you put in your contributions as well. Like you sacrificed whatever it was per month to make sure that you had done this. For a lot of people, that could mean for years. That could have meant that they did not upgrade their lifestyle to make sure to secure their future, that they didn't, that their Christmases weren't what they would have wanted, right? What other families had, trips, debt. They had a sacrificed lifestyle, or they just made different choices to secure their future. So while they watched other people make different choices, make more memories, or seemingly have a much more fluffed up lifestyle, right? The living at their income. So for these people who they they bought the promise. They said, okay, if this is what you've put in place for us, this is what we're going to invest in, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we get the results that we're supposed to have. Or if we don't, then it's on us, right? That we didn't plan. We didn't plan.
The thing about this is where the marketing plays such a major role.
Yeah, how is it legal is my point though. Like, don't you guys want to know that? How is this legal?
But that's the part. When I'm sitting down with the couple and they're saying, and I'm saying, hey, you can take control over your retirement dollars and you can put them in a position to where you can actually decide how much they are or not going to be involved in the market. Usually the response I get is very much a, wait a minute, that's not possible. Wait a minute, there's no way. Wait a minute, how is this even legal? To me, if we took that exact same perspective with these current retirement accounts, we wouldn't be here. So why don't we? It's because we've been conditioned. Again, I go back to 81% of Americans today have a retirement account, or have a 401k. And
81.
53% of that $38 trillion is owned, is held by just Fidelity and Vanguard. What about the amount that Morgan Stanley has? What about the amount that Edward Jones has? So we know it's closer to what, maybe 75, maybe even 80% of that $38 trillion is sitting with companies who what? Who want to keep your money where it is. Why? Because they benefit off of it. If the same questions that I'm going to get about what I'm about to share with you was positioned towards those same custodians that have their funds with them in this investment account, we wouldn't be here. But we've been conditioned not to question it. We don't walk into a bank and say, hey, bank, this is what I'm expecting of you. We walk into a bank and we allow the bank to tell us what we should do because we've been conditioned to believe the banks care about us. We don't walk into State Farm and say, this is what I need as it relates to how my life insurance policy should be structured. We walk into State Farm and State Farm tells us, here's the type of life insurance you're going to get. We don't walk into Fidelity and tell Fidelity, I want my 401k. We don't walk to our employer, walk into HR and say, I want my 401k structured this way. I don't want a tax deferred 401k. I am okay with paying my taxes today. Why? Any growth on my retirement account, I want that growth on my 401k to happen tax free.
Yeah. But
because
we also can't say
we sat in that cafeteria and we watched that video and we were handed this stack of papers that said, these are the actions you're now supposed to take to set up and qualify for your 401k. Congratulations, you've made it through that vested period. And now here's your 401k. Oh, and check these boxes for the number of mutual fund stocks and bonds you want to be invested in. When were we supposed to argue with that?
Yeah, well, that's not an option. Obviously, it's not an option, but it's also not an option to say, like, I don't want this firm to manage because they take too much in fees. Like,
imagine if these 81% stood as much as this 81% is polarized between who will and who won't be president. What if this 81% said, you know what? I am not doing another action at my job until we fix this problem. Why? Because my future depends on it. If we took the same position that we get distracted by so much. If we pull those distractions and again came together and focused our attention on what's the real problem is, the problem in America is not racism. The problem in America is classism.
Right.
The problem in America is there are way too many people there are far less people with more of our money versus the majority of us have nothing. If we were all on a much more level playing field, we would be in a much different position. Well, if 2/3 of my retirement account is being taken by the custodian that holds my money, that means I would have 2/3 more, which means I would actually have 2/3 more income today to be able to have a different discussion. I could give a damn who's the president. We can weekend at Bernie with Biden all day long. but we can't because we're distracted by this nonsense. I mean, am I making sense?
Yes. But part of the problem is that we have this idea, this false kind of flawed idea of what wealth or making it looks like. For instance, for people even within our generation, they feel like making six figures is winning. Like that's still a win for a lot of people, even though it's not because of inflation. It's not the same as it was when we first saw that as a goal, right? So it's not 100K dark cabinets. That was a goal for a while, right? Have the house with with granite countertops. And then you get the house with the dark cabinets and the granite countertops, and then you realize that's outdated. Can't have that anymore, right? So in order to sell this house, now we have to upgrade again, and all this money goes into some stupid stuff. And this is just layers on layers on layers of things that hold us back, where we do have resources if we were able to allocate them appropriately. If we truly had advocates where decisions are made, and to the point in the chat where the laws are made, right? If we had advocates in those rooms and they understood what it was and they were tied to our outcomes. They're not. They are only tied to our journey, and they benefit, they win. Regardless if we lose, they will always win. And that is how it's set up as long as we keep playing this game.
But that's a great sentence. But we have to peel that back. If we just had someone in the room that could have our back, we may actually have people in the room that have our back. That's not the issue. The issue is the lobbyists.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if Fidelity and Vanguard have 53% of $38 trillion of retirement dollars, and they walk into that advocate that you're referencing,
Mm-hmm.
who has all of the great intentions,
Okay.
when Fidelity and Vanguard walk in that room, what ground does that person have to stand on to move the needle if Vanguard and Fidelity have 53% and can lobby against any of it? Like, let's be realistic.
Okay. Just by being able to take it out and have other options, like through your job, that it's mandatory. There's a lot of jobs. There's a new rule in many states that say because people have not been planning for the future, because they will become dependent on the system if they can't make enough or have enough income to even just meet their needs, that they'll become dependent on the system. So therefore, it becomes mandatory for some of these companies have made it mandatory that you have to opt into the 401k program. If they were to just give more options that say our program, this that we have set up, or you can opt into this other program that is more self-directed, like that could be a thing. It's just that the rules are only slighted towards all of these. You have to fund these industries, you have to fund these people and these groups, these special interests in these systems, because they were designed to support these industries. These industries would not be thriving if you had to get a degree to be a broker in the first place. But which, by the way, isn't that crazy that a lot of these people in these positions don't even have to have a degree, and they won't even work with people who don't have a degree.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense, right? Like a lot of the people that they refuse to work with, financial advisors and the like, but the brokers, you don't have to have a degree to be a broker. And that's and in order to be at the level, to make the income, to be at the level for them to benefit the most, you probably had to crawl yourself out of crippling debt and student loans and invest in a significant amount of time in learning to even make that income for them to siphon off 2/3. And we have a lot of questions piling up, and one of them is about breaking down the 2/3. So I just wanted to say that out
Almost
there. So,
done.
Okay.
Almost done.
Okay. All right.
So what can you do? And we talk about getting self-directed a lot, but let's peel that back. I'm talking about control. And so there are differing, I'll call it, levels of control. So when I say get self-directed, and I mean when I say get self-directed, having control over your retirement dollars, in some situations that might be easy. Hey, I've got this previous employer plan that I left the company a long time ago. It's sitting in some IRA, not doing a whole lot. Can I have access to those funds to make them do better or get them out of the market, get them out of that investment equation and get them into a compounding equation? Yes, you can. But what about that retirement account that I'm with? I'm at this employer and I'm just one person. As much as I would love to be able to take my employer's retirement account and get it out of the investment equation and move it into the compound equation, will they allow it? Well, they might, but let's just say they don't. Then what can you do? How can you have more control over that situation? Well, here's what I can do. I can make sure that the money that I'm putting in this account at minimum is no more than what the company is saying they're matching, knowing that that match is really pennies on the dollar. Like, I am now knowledgeable. I now understand. I may not be able to have control over moving it. I at least can take back my power in understanding how it works. So when HR comes along and they say, wait a minute, you're only putting in 5%. Why aren't you putting in more? You can help educate HR as to why. So at least you're not falling down that rabbit hole of, hey, due to marketing and pressure and whatever else comes along with your job, you're now putting more money in a vehicle that you know will not get you to where it is you want to go. But now you have more income. So now it is your responsibility from a get self-directed perspective, from a control perspective, to now be conscious of the fact that because now less money is going to my employer, I now have to take responsibility around where my money is actually going. And so, and what that means is I need to be much more conscious of this equation. Where can I place my funds where I can pay myself first? And that means exactly what it says. Before you pay your mortgage, before you pay that credit card bill, before you pay your student loans, are you paying yourself first? And when? When should you pay yourself first? Not tomorrow, not next week, not after I pay off my home. Am I paying myself first right now? Where? It needs to be somewhere secure. What does that look like? What are the areas that are secure? We'll dig into that. But it needs to be somewhere secure. Why? Well, when that money's secure, when I pay myself first somewhere today and my money's secure, as I make money, as my money makes money, it starts to compound. And still, that's not enough. But if you just had those four things, you're winning because at least you've reduced and or eliminated the risk. But how do you exponentially grow it? Because you might be 47, 48, and I've just now learned this today, so I'm starting a little bit late. So what are those actions that I can take? Well, we have to involve OPM. We got to get somebody else's money in here on top of what it is you're contributing so we can start to exponentially grow. And if I'm 24, 25, I had a conversation with some very intelligent 20, I think it was one was 25 and one was 27 at the event where I was presenting. And the question was around, hey, I've got an IRA, but now I want a self-directed 401k. Okay, that's awesome. But just so we're clear, what's your goal? Is your goal to continue to contribute to this product and be okay with 59 being the date that you can access it? You have to sit down and have that discussion. Maybe you've got a vehicle that you don't have a choice. And so if I'm going to, if I'm going to be forced to not be able to touch my money till 59 and a half, I need to at least make sure I'm putting it in an equation like this. No harm in that. But in addition, what else are you doing? When you talk about diversification, a lot of times most people mention diversification, and that's because the vehicle that they are telling you to put your money in isn't great. So they're saying, hey, you need to diversify so that you can reduce the impact of this vehicle not being great. But what if you had a vehicle that was sufficient enough and covered all of these bases? Would you need to diversify? Or would you focus all of your attention, all of your cash flow on making sure this vehicle is growing as much as it can? And again, this is where becoming self-directed means you are taking control. You are taking ownership of what those actions are. You are no longer being dictated to. You're no longer being told what to do. Now, you may be getting, I'll call it direction or information from your financial advisor, but you're going to do your own homework to understand whether he's selling you a product or he's putting your money in a position so that your money can start working for you. And that's on you. But that's why we're here. We're here to help close that gap. And then the other piece is being conscious of time. We are all running out of time. What do I mean? Well, we all have a certain number of compound cycles. What's a compound cycle? A compound cycle is the amount of time it takes for your money to double just one time. Quick scenario. Let's say you're 40 years old and you've got $200,000 in your 401k. My question is normally, how long did it take you to accumulate that $200,000 at 40 years old in your 401k? Let's call it 20 years. Okay, it took you 20 years to get 400,000. Well, how long do you think it's going to take you to get another? I'm sorry, it took you 20 years to get 200,000. So how long do you think it's going to take you to get another 200,000? It's by using the rule of 72. So mathematically, it might take you another 20 years, depending on the vehicle that it's in. Maybe it might take you another 10. But let's say it took you 10. By that time, you're now 50. You're 50 with 400,000. You're 10 years away from retirement. Is that enough? Probably
Nope.
not. So knowing your compound cycles helps you also understand what type of sense of urgency should you have again? And how important is it that you make the right decision to get your money out of the market and put it in a place that can actually start building wealth for you? And as it relates to building wealth, where is that? Well, you have to understand where your money is today. This is what's called the risk return pyramid. As you move up the pyramid, the risk gets greater. As you move down the pyramid, the risk becomes less. What's down here at the bottom? We're talking bonds, life insurance, and traditional savings accounts, meaning money that's sitting in these vehicles are traditionally protected. Well, what's in the middle? In the middle are your market-based products, mutual funds, stocks, bonds. Tend to have risk. You do great with the market, you lose with the market. You do great with the market, you lose with the market. Linear growth. But then up in this area, we've got real estate, commodities. We've got precious metals. And I think up here, futures. And in addition, I would call crypto sitting here. It's not in the pyramid, but I would say crypto sitting up there. But the bottom line is, as you move up the pyramid, the risk becomes greater. What if there was a vehicle that could provide the growth of the risky area, the growth of mutual funds, stocks, and bonds, the security of life insurance-based products? What if you could put your money in a vehicle that had the good things of the items in these areas, but allowed you to have the security of not being worried about who's president or what's at risk? It exists, but it takes action on your part. It takes effort on your part. We have to stop depending upon our custodian, our brokers, and our employer and assuming that they have our back, because they don't. The 401k is not the scam. Where the 401k is located, that's the scam. The 401k, you have the ability, and I think you have the ability to have more control over your retirement dollars. You can self-direct your retirement dollars, meaning you can move those funds that are sitting in that 403b, TSP, government 457 plan, penalty-free, tax-free, into your own self-directed 401k, which gives you the autonomy, the flexibility to be able to then get your funds out of an investment equation and put them into a compounding equation. You have the ability to take control to do that. The question is, do you understand what you have available to you to be able to do so? And that's kind of where this channel, again, comes into play. Our objective is just simply to peel back the layers. Our objective is to break down where your money is currently, the content you've been sold, and help you understand why it's been sold in that fashion. It's so that those who are selling it to you benefit. They're leveraging you. The best thing you can do is become them. Become the bank. Become the life insurance company. Become the financial institution. Take more control over where your money is and be more diligent around getting self-directed. That's it, sweetheart.
Okay, go back to the risk return pyramid real quick, and then we're going to pull up the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, at the bottom here, well, I'm covering it up. Can you move it over so they can see all the things? At the bottom here, these bonds, what's really crazy about the concept of this is, even though they're said to be the most secure, why are they the most secure? What the heck are these things, and why are they secure? What's crazy to me is that we talk about leverage. We all use leverage. We get mortgages to purchase a home, right? We have to have the majority of people leverage car loans in order to get access to that new car. We're not doing this where we're saving up cash to buy a house, right? We're utilizing leverage. Part of that leverage is our credit score, right? The credit history that we have, the proof that we make good decisions, good financial decisions. But what if every time we didn't, there was a bond that was released? What if every time that we did not do what we were supposed to do, we spent more than what we were making, right? There was this bond that people could buy. That's a crazy idea, right? What if instead of us not paying our bills, what if instead of us living beyond our means and outside of our lifestyle, our home didn't foreclose on, right? They didn't come repo the car if we didn't pay for it. They just released a bond and other people could buy it. What's crazy is how when you start to see this stuff and you start to peel it back, it's even wilder why these things are so secure. It's so secure because if we had to have a credit score as a nation, it wouldn't qualify. True or untrue?
Spot on.
But instead, right, we get denied access, and instead they release these bonds that people get to buy, and they go, yeah, well, I purchased savings bonds, and that's how I'm securing that money that you purchased the savings bond, and you cannot use while it's in the bond, right? You can't use that same dollar twice. It's not sitting there, and you can spend it. So it's locked up in there. So therefore, you can't spend beyond what it is that you have unless you go and you get leverage. In order to do that, again, you have to have access. Somebody has to be the gatekeeper. They have to give you the permission to do that until you become your own bank where you can give yourself permission, which we have, and we do. And you can too. But the point that I'm trying to make is we see these things and the terms, the names of these are so familiar to us. Like right when he was going through the risk, this risk pyramid, when you were looking at all of these asset types, right? And asset classes you've heard of them before. BRICS isn't on here. We won't even go down that rabbit hole. Again, if you want to hear the history of retirement plans, including where BRICS is coming into the place, check out our Wizard of Oz series where we unpacked the history of retirement plans. It fits perfectly in line. Like we were already given the story and how it was to play out and the whole narrative, right? The whole plot. The whole aha moment, the big takeaway. We've been fed this since forever. When did that movie come out? Decades. Yeah. They were eating meat and jello together in a mold when that movie came out and loving it. Okay. So we've had that information since then. And these bonds, these FDIC insured certificates and deposits, all of these types of things that are said to be the only thing that is not pretty much a scam on this list is life insurance because it's yours. You're the asset, right? That's my hot take.
So, life insurance being a scam.
No, I said the only thing that's not.
I know that's what you said. Life insurance, like 401ks, you're right. The vehicle isn't the scam.
Right.
How you structure the life insurance policy.
Yeah.
Who the life insurance policy is
absolutely.
with.
Yeah. But at minimum, you have a guarantee of
regardless
of what you get, you have a guarantee. Somebody can't just come and rip it away from you. You understand the terms that you are purchasing it from. You can't get to your last dying day and then they go, oh, the market drops. So guess who doesn't have life insurance anymore?
No, I'm with you. But there is gate-kept information that if you aren't aware as to what it is you bought, you can be gravely disappointed when it comes time for you to leverage and or use the death benefit for whatever that issue might be. So again, knowing this is what we do on this channel. It's peeling back the layers to understand where the opportunities are and gaining more control over how to take action with these vehicles. So,
yeah. Okay. So I'll pause there and I won't rant for what we can. That can be another stream. Yeah, but we have some questions, so I want to make sure that we get to that. Also, give us a like if you are watching this and if you found value. If you're watching this on the TV or you're not sure how to jump in the chat, there's a few people that said, I don't know how to jump in the chat. Like I'm new to this live stream stuff. You can also just scan this QR code and you can text us to our number and then I'll see it and I'll pull your question up that way. So
I heard
I'll
there's
give
a Mama Peaky in here too. So make sure you let her know, do not take a picture of the QR code, only scan it.
Yeah, don't take a picture, just pull out your phone with the photo app, and then when the yellow icon comes up, you click on that and it will take you there. Or you can text the number too. That's either one's fine. So your name, if you don't want your name to be read, that's okay. You can just put read anonymously, not a problem. So I'll do just a few minutes here and then we'll move over and start answering questions. In the meantime, be sure to like if you're new here, subscribe. We've got some really, really great questions that are already in the chat, and I can tell that people have gotten a lot of value, but it's also kind of it's raised some red flags for some people, right? They're like, hold on a second, I did not, now I can't unsee this, and now I'm angry. And our point and our job out here is not to make people angry. So first and foremost, like, that's not the goal. The goal is not to upset you. However, if it means that we have to like pull the sunglasses off your eyes and for a second it's just like a little too bright, it's just par for the course, right? It has to happen in order for you to adjust, and now you can see everything for what it's supposed to be.
Some of us take action based off pleasure. Some of us take action based off pain. I am one of those who, and I would have never thought this, but I am. I am one of those who I have to be uncomfortable before I move. And so I'm saying that to say I am hoping you're angry because I don't know if you can tell, but every time I go through this stuff, I get angry because this is absolutely information we should have known. This is absolutely information that if we were focused on the right things, this country would not be in the position that it's in. We could care less about the debate last week if we were focused on the right things, but we're not. And it makes me angry. And I apologize if it comes off that way, but it does. And so my objective is to transfer some of that to you because the only way things change from my perspective is, again, some of us take action based off pleasure. Some of us take action based off pain. I'm a pain movement guy.
Yeah. Well, it's what needs to happen, but I agree with you. We shouldn't be so dependent on what and who is making decisions for us because we have the ability to take control. So if you're new here, that is what we talk about consistently, is understanding your leverage so that you can take control. You can become your own bank. If this isn't the typical bank on yourself, infinite banking ideologies. These are completely different in building a machine where it's not this or that. It's where all of these things connect together. So whether you made another dollar or not, they would continue to feed each other and continue compounding. Okay, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. First up, we have Bia, hashtag BeChill. Does this also apply to the 401k Roth? Also, as a side note, I was able to use up to $10,000 from my IRA when I bought my first home. Just want to share in case someone finds themselves in the same situation. This is a good question and a good note.
Yep. And so as it relates to Roth is just a condition of your dollar, meaning if it's not Roth, that means it's tax deferred. If it is Roth, that means you've already paid taxes on it, and the growth is happening tax free. So does this apply? It absolutely applies because the reason we're having this discussion is your 401k or your Roth 401k or your Roth IRA a scam? The vehicle itself is not. It's where's the vehicle located. So if that Roth 401k is invested in the stock market, you're impacted by who's president, who went up in a rocket, what's inflation. You are impacted by all those things, and therefore the possibility of you losing a certain dollar amount due to market risk is there. Oh, and in addition, 2/3 of your 401k is being eaten up by fees. So whatever it is today, multiply that by three, because that's what you should have. So absolutely.
Okay. And the concept of leveraging to buy your home, there's being structured in a way where you don't have to be penalized for utilizing your own money.
Well, and that's the part. She said it's a Roth 401k, correct?
She said from her IRA. She didn't say it was a Roth.
Perfect. So the IRA, some IRAs do offer that, they call it hardship. So it's a hardship dollar amount that you're able to take. But if we're talking a Roth IRA, you are allowed to get whatever it is you put in it out without penalty, without asking for it. And that's not a loan. So you can actually withdraw your contributions and use that for whatever you want. They call it a backdoor ATM perspective. But the bottom line is there's a few different things that you can do with vehicles like that. So
structure, I agree. Structure matters.
Structure matters. That's right.
Okay. Ty says, this is blowing my mind. It keeps us stuck working and contributing into our 401k so that it can presumably accumulate as much as possible, but yet we lose it all via inflation and taxes. What a farce.
And here's the thing. So now that you know this, what do you do different? It's not stop putting money in your company's 401k. That is not the intent here. The intent here is to understand what it is you're actually contributing. So now let's do some math. Let's understand, you know what? If my company is matching 10%, then okay, I'll at least put in the 10% knowing I'm not getting a dollar for dollar match. They are not giving me 10% more in my salary so they can give me this 10% as a match. I know that. But that doesn't mean I don't want the funds or the free money, even though it's pennies on the dollar.
Yeah,
But
free
here's what I'm
money.
not going to do. I am not going to contribute the 20% they're hoping that I contribute because I know that there's no benefit to me. So, okay, if I don't do that, then what do I do with this additional dollar amount that I now have as income coming in? I have to get realistic. How old am I? I'm X amount of age. I've got a time horizon of X amount of time. So based off that age, based off that time horizon, what actions do I need to take so that I can start getting my money working for me? Because today, maybe if I have additional cash flow, I put that additional cash flow on my mortgage. If I have additional cash flow, maybe I'm using that additional cash flow to pay off these student loans. Maybe if my perspective needs to shift to, am I focused on paying myself first? Meaning, am I putting my money in a vehicle where now it's a vehicle that can compound for me, that I can leverage today? And maybe that means I slow down paying off my home, but I'm putting my money in a vehicle that when I need to, I can actually leverage that vehicle to still pay off my home. So it's just sitting down and kind of breaking down what's the goal, and now how do I hit that goal with this new information that I found. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Here, here. Okay, K Session says, wasn't it the person with the vibe board? Wasn't it a replacement for pensions after so many were scammed away? So now the employees would hold responsibility over their retirement. Yes.
And
No. Well, that's
short
really
answer
not
to
what it
go ahead.
is.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say you're absolutely correct, but it's not that the pensions were a scam. It's that pensions were doling out so much money, and as population gets older, how do they maintain this performance? Meaning, how do I continue paying these people their pensions while also being able to take care of the people in house? So they transition to actually save themselves. It wasn't about you, and it wasn't about the pensions being a scam. It was, hey, we no longer want to start distributing funds through this pension. So therefore, is there an alternative? Is there a different way we can go about it and place that responsibility, place that monkey off our shoulders as the company, and now put it on you? They didn't say those words, though. They didn't say they were placing the responsibility, taking the responsibility off themselves and putting it on you. That's exactly what happened. Go ahead, sweetheart.
The the reason why these came into be in the first place, why this like took off like wildfire, wasn't just because of how the corporations benefited and that it took that burden off of them. It was also that they had to have these insured pensions, had to have insurance at the time, so that if the company went out of business, you were still going to be guaranteed this pension through the rest of your life, right? Like the promise was going to be upheld. At some point, though, these insurance companies started dropping these companies. They weren't going to, they could not. They were going bankrupt too, these insurance companies. So not only could these pensions not be insured, but there was no guarantee that people were actually going to get these what they had paid into. So they had already paid out to other people, but the people who are currently paying in were never going to get what they had that all those extra dollars and all those extra years, right, that they had invested there. So we're seeing this right now. If you're paying attention to what's happening in Florida, we're seeing insurance companies start acting very similar. This is giving pensions back in the 60s and late 60s and early 70s. This is giving, we can't afford to continue taking the hit on all of these claims that are happening because we're insuring things that we can't really keep insuring. So in Florida, this is the hurricane coverage, right? So they're saying, well, we can't do this. For a lot of people, it was either we're waiting for a hurricane to happen so that we can get our roof replaced, right? We're waiting for a
No, you're
hurricane
right.
or
Yeah.
a bad storm to happen so that we can get these things replaced, because whether we replace them now or later, it doesn't really matter. We know how we can get these covered. So they're just going, well, now we're just not going to cover them anymore. So those people are going, well, our whole goal was to downsize and retire. Like, we're here, we're supposed to be retired, but now we have to pay more because the cost of upkeeping everything has now come on our HOA, our retirement center, right? Like, all of these costs are increasing. One HOA fee we had raised to like $1,900 a month, and this is insane. So then they go, well, we got to get out of here. What do? We got to sell. Who's going to buy that? Who's going to buy that? Who's Sure, I'll come down and I will pay $1,900 a month for an HOA that was like $500, which was already kind of a lot, right? But it was $500, now it's $1,900. No guarantee that it's not going to just raise again because, inflation, and we have no idea if these insurance companies are going to be able to, are going to keep. Who's next? If it's not an insurance company, what other service is being depended on right now? Who's next? We don't know. Point is, that's why the 401k and the IRA were introduced, because not only did it give somebody the independence in their own retirement, it was really because these corporations and these insurance companies, they couldn't float the bill anymore. So therefore, all the risk went to you. And now these industries that had already been being paid were completely supported, but on your dime. So it's a great question. It's a great amount of history to know and to understand, because I think it helps with your negotiating power when you are going into a new job or you're talking about a raise or a promotion, right? Like, what do you know that could maybe sweeten up the deal so that you have more leverage that you can place in another area that could be more impactful towards your future? Okay. Anything you wanted to add?
To know.
Like, that was actually a little much. Okay. Tabitha says it's the same principle with the life insurance that they have you take out. Don't they do the same thing with that?
So
I'm trying to think of when she was bringing this up, where
that's
it applied.
pretty broad. I think what I will say about life insurance is no different than, it's not the 401k that's the problem. It's where the 401k is sitting and who has it and who has control over it. As it relates to life insurance, you can structure a life insurance policy to benefit you, and you can structure a life insurance policy to benefit the life insurance company. So how that is structured is absolutely matter. So don't they do the same thing? I don't know what you specifically mean there,
Oh,
but
that they have you to take out. It's the same principle with the life insurance that they have you to take out. That you're the asset. Maybe that's the
well, and
point.
that's absolutely the case in the case of life. Well, and I think that's the beauty of life insurance. A lot of, because I don't know, I consider myself a little bit different. A lot of people look at this differently, but here's the way I see it. Life insurance is, or the life insurance company is saying to you, hey, I'm going to leverage you as an asset. That leverageable asset can either benefit you, can benefit them, or there can be a partnership here. In most cases, we buy term policies, right? That term policy is a life insurance company saying, I'm going to take a bet. I bet that you will outlive this $1 million policy. I bet that over the next 20 years, you're going to pay $100 a month for this $1 million policy, and over the next 20 years, you will still be here. But what did the life insurance company do with that $1,200 a year? They put it in a vehicle that made them money. They put it in a compound interest producing vehicle that had reduced risk. They compounded your money. The $1,200 a year made money, and that money made money. And at the end of the 20-year period, when they said, hey, would you like to re-up this term policy? They've already made hundreds of thousands of dollars off you. So they are absolutely using you as the asset. What if you said, nah, you know what, life insurance company, I want to participate in that. I know you're going to use me as an asset, but I want to access the cash value that you're growing. I want to be, I'm going to allow you to use me as an asset, but what we're going to do is some of that money that I'm contributing, I need to be able to use today to pay bills as cash flow, to invest, or do velocity banking, do infinite banking, whatever the reason is. But now we are going to leverage my life as an asset. And I think some people call it we insure our home, we insure our car, we insure our health. Why wouldn't we insure our paycheck? Why wouldn't we insure our income? Hey, if something happens to me job wise, I've got a vehicle that I've been growing and compounding such that I might not even have to worry about going back to work because I've been placing my income in a vehicle that has now insured my income. And let's do that in addition to our traditional retirement planning that's outside of the market. So it's not this or that, it's this and that.
Here, here. Okay, Denny says, Denny, welcome, by the way. I haven't seen your name before, so thanks for joining us. Can you break down a little further how they have 2/3?
Go ahead, sweetheart, plug it.
I wish I could play it actually right now. Um, yeah, that would be so cool if I could play it.
It's all right. Retirement gamble. I thought you were going to
Okay.
plug where to
Yeah,
get it.
well,
Go
I
ahead.
am, but we have the clip in here somewhere.
all
I
good.
know we do. There is a documentary on the Frontline PBS YouTube channel, and it's called The Retirement Gamble. In there, they break down where that 2/3 goes. Not only that, but then they go and they ask the executives over at Morgan Stanley and where else? Wells Fargo. Who
Um,
else? Who else did they talk to over there?
Fidelity, Vanguard, because they talked to Vanguard. So they talked to a lot of the custodians that hold retirement accounts. Again, that
Yeah.
visual that stated 83% of Americans have a 401k and 53% of them are owned by Fidelity and Vanguard. So they actually talked to Vanguard and asked that specific question about the fees. And they trip over themselves. I mean, literally trip over themselves trying to say it's not what you think it is.
Man, okay. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to pull it up while he's answering the next question. And then we're going to play it. Okay. So I hope you're still here. Denny, party of one, let us know if you're still here. And then, but I think you all are going to really appreciate how they confronted these executives over there and how they tried to dance around this concept. And then we trolled them a little bit with the editing when we cut it up for our content. So I'll go grab that while we go into the next question, then we'll come back to it. It'll just take me just a few minutes here. Okay. Let's see. Ty says, do IRAs have the same limitations as 401k, 403bs, TSPs? If you had to choose one, which would you choose? Wow.
Yep. Pretty easy. So IRAs. IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. And the A actually has a second meaning. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But anyway, IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. In truth, IRAs are just glorified savings accounts. They are not special. Matter of fact, they're pretty mediocre. And if you notice, most financial institutions really push Roth IRAs heavy. Why is that? Well, because an IRA is just a glorified savings account, it requires the support of a bank, of a custodian, in order for you to be able to take action. It's almost like you have to have their permission because the structure isn't there. So the bank provides the foundation for that IRA to be successful. Well, when you involve a bank, what are you also adding? You're adding bank fees. So they get to charge you every time you go to transfer your funds. They get to charge you every time you write a check. They get to charge you every time you move funds from point A to point B. Now, some cases you see it. In some cases you don't. My point is an IRA is pretty basic and it requires custodial support, which implies custodial fees. Now, let's say you wanted to self-direct the IRA, meaning you wanted to have more control over the IRA, get it out of the stock market, Roth or traditional, get it out of the stock market to invest in non-traditional investments like land, subject tos, real estate, you name it, crypto, precious metals, gold and silver. It doesn't matter what it is. Well, if you were to do that, you can. But the problem with an IRA is still the fact that the IRA is actually a poorly designed vehicle. So it requires support. It requires a custodial interference. Now, if you get the right self-directed IRA, we can reduce some of that custodial interference. But the moral of the story is it does require a custodian. And in addition, if you're wanting to use that self-directed IRA outside of the market, Again, as I mentioned, it's a glorified savings account, so it doesn't have the structure to do that. So you're required, or it would be required, for your IRA to purchase an LLC. So I've got custodial fees having an IRA. Now my IRA has to purchase an LLC. When it purchases an LLC, that implies LLC fees. So I've got fees related to a custodian. I got fees related to having a LLC. And now, but I now have the structure that allows me to have checkbook control over my dollars. Why? Because an LLC has an EIN number. Take that EIN number, open up a checking account. I can now move funds from my IRA into the checking account of the LLC. I now have full control over those dollars to invest in non-traditional investments, get them out of the market, double my money, grow my money, fine. Which means I'm okay with that fee structure, knowing that now I have more control over my dollars. Would I prefer that? Or would I prefer a self-directed 401k or a 401k? What is the difference between a 401k and an IRA? Well, a 401k is actually a trust, meaning when you build a 401k, the foundation, the backbone, the structure of that 401k is similar to a trust, which is why when people who have 401ks, the owners of those 401ks are called trustees, similar to a trustee of a trust. What makes that any better? Well, if you know anything about trusts have their own EIN number. So 401ks have their own EIN number. Well, if a 401k structured as a trust has its own EIN number, it allows us to do a few things. Starting with this, a 401k does not require custodial support. And it means exactly what it says. A 401k does not require a bank to be involved. But let's be honest. You would want your money sitting in a bank. You would want your money sitting in an FDIC insured institution. But because a 401k has the structure that doesn't require having a bank, that allows us to renegotiate those bank fees or eliminate those bank fees. So if you were getting a properly structured, self-directed 401k so that you can invest in non-traditional investments, we have the ability to eliminate custodial interference by putting your money with a passive custodian, basically a bank that charges no fees. Okay, so we've gotten rid of custodial fees. What about this issue with an LLC? Does it have the structure? Well, a trust has its own EIN number. The whole purpose of the IRA buying or owning an LLC was so that the IRA could have an EIN number for you to go open up a checking account. Well, if the 401k is designed as a trust, if the 401k already has its own EIN number, you don't need an LLC in order to have a 401k. So therefore, you can take the EIN number of the 401k, open up a checking account. You now have full control over your 401k dollars, which means you've eliminated custodial fees. You've eliminated LLC fees. So which is better? I kind of sum it up like this. They both can allow you to invest in non-traditional investments, though they both can allow you to take control. But the structure of one, there are fees built into the structure of one that I cannot eliminate. But that doesn't mean it should stop you from wanting a self-directed IRA, because it's still a vehicle that you can use to get yourself out of a situation and grow your money exponentially. But a 401k, that structure is already built in. So which is better? I'm going to say they both are actually pretty solid vehicles, but one does have more fees than the other. So if I had to choose, it's going to be a 401k all day long. Words, 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 words. I literally have no words for what you're
happened?
about to see.
Hold on.
I
Go
want to
back.
get your reaction to an example that Jack Bogle gave us.
That actually kind of fit pretty well. I literally have no
He's saying words
for
and
what
starting
you're about
off
to
with
see.
words.
Wait,
I want
hold
to
on.
get your reaction to an example that Jack Bogle gave us.
It doesn't take a genius to know that the bigger the profit of the management company, the smaller the profit that investors get.
And that is that if you invest over a 50-year investing lifetime in a mutual fund, making 7% a year on average, but you're paying 2% in fee for that, that 2% will erode something like 2/3 of your gains.
Not because of a market crash, not because of inflation.
Not because you're not invested in the right things. It's because the company responsible for managing your savings plan is taking full advantage of you through fees.
Do you really want to invest in a system where you put up 100% of the capital, you the mutual fund shareholder, you take 100% of the risk, and you get 30% of the return?
So the lower fees relative to any given investment will always result in higher accumulation.
But is his example correct? I mean, it's shocking that you would be giving up 2/3 of your...
So I don't know the math behind the example.
But does it
that
sound
you're
correct?
Citing. It sounds it sounds high.
That 2% will erode 2/3.
It sounds high.
But you're paying 2% in fee.
Any given investment will always result in higher accumulation.
I mean, it's shocking that
Any given, it
2/3...
sounds high. It sounds high. It sounds high. So I don't know the math.
In a mutual fund.
Take an account with a $100,000 balance and reduce it by 2% a year. At the end of 50 years, that 2% annual charge would subtract $63,000 from your account, a loss of 63%, leaving you with just a little over $36,000.
Why, man?
It sounds high. It sounds high. It sounds high.
Well, how did you
And I
guys
feel
learn
the
that?
same way. It's almost like I recorded that today because I feel that exact same way, like right now.
But I promise you, if you watch that documentary, that's only one of like 3 different documentaries that will have you fired up like that. And we did a whole lot of trolling in the editing. I'm surprised that, Frontline, obviously, they don't have as much freedom as we do to do that kind of stuff. But essentially, that is what they were doing in the confrontations that they were having with a lot of these executives from these companies who were trying to just pull the wheel over. One lady from Wells Fargo said that people were just too stupid to understand what it was they were buying, and so that's why they don't list everything in the terms and conditions. They don't even tell people what's going on because it'd be too complicated for them. That's what she said, and that's how people think of the average American, the person who is funding their paycheck, right? The only reason why they are able to have the lifestyle that they have is because of the number of people who are funding and fueling these systems. It's too complicated for them to understand. Just keep telling them to continue fueling, continue funding, so that we can continue cashing the checks. Otherwise, we don't want to have to tell them, and we don't have to. There's no law that says that they have to, so they don't, right? And as long as you continue signing and you volunteer for these programs, they get to continue doing it. So, and thinking of us all in that way. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that answered the question about the 2/3, but that was a snippet from the Retirement Gamble documentary. And just what you'll see over there is a lot of questions like that, a lot of very direct questions, a lot of breaking down the math to show this is where people were waking up going, are you kidding me right now? I didn't even know this because I thought this was just what you were supposed to do. And now I wake up today realizing that my 401k and my husband's 401k don't match. We had the same amount going in, yet I don't have nearly what he has in there. And again, it's not because the 401k, because it's the same vehicle. So to your point, it's not the 401k, it's who's in control of it and who benefits from that 401k and how it's structured. So,
But digress for a moment. Round of applause for you being able to pull up that clip and use that clip to be able to answer the question, because I knew you were going to kind of explain the retirement gamble. For you to have that clip ready to go, that's pretty dope. So
thank you.
it's almost like
Love
we got a
that for me.
produced show. Like, man, like you are awesome over there with those buttons you push. So
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun to be able to do that, of course. So yeah, and thanks for the shout out. Yes, I edited the video, Sequoia. That was me. And because I'm petty, and that's where I get to that's my outlet, is in editing those types of things, of course. There's more like that. We have a whole series on how our reactions to the Retirement Gamble documentary. So don't miss those. Don't sleep on those. Okay, we have more questions. Feather says, I just don't understand handing over $23,000 a year that I can't touch for 20 years. Nope, not going to do it.
but let me throw that boomerang right back at you.
Okay.
Then what are you going to do with it? So because I agree with you. I totally agree with tying up those funds or not tying up those funds, then we have to be very diligent around what we do with it. It goes back to that investment equation versus the compound equation. Pay yourself first today, somewhere secure, compound your money, and then exponentially grow it using other people's money, using leverage. So it's not just, hey, I don't want my money tied up. It's, hey, I don't want my money tied up. I want it here. I want it doing this, and I want to control over it so that I can actually put it in a position so I can make more money. And because I think I had a lot of conversations this weekend around, okay, so then Donnell, can I hire you to take these funds that I just learned shouldn't be in this vehicle, but can you put them where they belong? And that's the part. We can lay out how things are structured, but what I cannot tell you to do is what you should do with your money. But what we can do is break down what are some of the vehicles that make sense. But that decision on what, that decision on where, and that having control, that's solely on you. And so not just, hey, I don't want my money tied up, but it's then where are you going to put it? Otherwise, maybe that company's 401k makes the most sense, because otherwise it's going to be sitting in a savings account that might end up getting liquidated because I don't have full control over my current lifestyle to be responsible for where it's going. So,
Yeah, Ty says, also seems the three-legged stool of retirement is basically on the ground. Pension, mostly done away with. Social Security, largely in debt. And 401k can be wiped out with the market.
but we can also replace those legs of that stool with something that's a bit more secure. So again, it's understanding that the stool is wobbly. It's understanding that the legs that I have may not be the right legs that need to be there, but it's not being a victim. It's, you know what, then let me take control of this stool and put the right legs on it. And yeah, maybe they may be uneven at the moment, right? While I learn this process, maybe what I'm replacing them with is a properly structured cash value life insurance policy that starts off slow. Maybe it's, you know what, I'm going to self-direct my previous employer plan, put it in another vehicle, like something that's maybe slow in how it grows, but at least it's secure and I'm not losing, nor am I losing 2/3 in fees. So it's actually growing more than it would have. And maybe that last item is, you know what, based off what I've learned by watching this channel, I was focused on paying off my mortgage once. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leverage this mortgage. I'm going to leverage the equity in this home and put that in a position as well. So I'm going to replace those legs. Or you know what? Maybe I'm creating a six-legged stool, because it's not that those other vehicles are gone. They're still there as of today, but I'm not dependent on them. So therefore, I've added more I've added more legs to this stool to give me more of a solid foundation to stand on. So if you remove one, I don't fall over.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what Corvette was saying. What's the alternative if you've run out of time? Like, what are the things that you can do? We had this question a lot this weekend because a lot of people that were at this event, you know, we fly in and this is something that we talk about every single day. This is a lifestyle for us, right? Doing this. But the people who come to these events, whether if it's a 2-day event, a 3-day event, it doesn't matter. When we get invited to come out, it's almost like we're invited to come and throw a grenade in the room, right? In your life, in is it not? Because some of these people are going like, the whole reason why I'm here, and I really couldn't psychologically unpack the fear and the panic and the anxiety that I'm feeling right now. What I'm doing is I'm assessing all this information of what is possible for me because I'm running out of time. Like, I already get that part. But when you say it out loud, that's the part that feels like the grenade went off in the room. When you say not only that I'm running out of time, you call these things out for what they are. You also tell me that everything that I had confidence in, even if I've waited or I did the right things, it doesn't matter because now it still won't be enough. So now what the heck do I do, Donnell? And this, we always talk about the WTF moment, but this is the first one. And it's not well-timed freedom that they're thinking about, right? It's what the, bruh. And it's a panic. It's this fear, and we understand it. It's okay that this happens. It's better that it happens now than later, right? Sooner than later anyway. What can you do though? What's the alternative if you've run out of time? What does that look like? What would you suggest? I think it depends it's different for everybody, but what would you suggest as a general?
Well, and I'm surprised, some of our regulars in the comments haven't already stated it, but it depends, because it depends on the goal. You being older or running out of time isn't the part. The part is, what is the objective? What's the goal? And depending on the goal, that will help us kind of identify what the options are. Because let's say, let me make up a scenario. Let's
Okay.
say you're 58 and your intentions are to retire at 60. 58, retired at 60. I've got $50,000 cash in my savings account. And in 2 years, I'm gonna need that $50,000 to be producing $10,000 a month in income. Well, let's first step back and be let's lay everything out on the table, and let's also be realistic with our situation. How long did it take to accumulate that 50,000? 10 years. Just making up a number. But in 2 years, I'm gonna need that $50,000 to translate to $10,000 a month in income. Like, if it took us 10 years to get here, it's going to take us a little bit of time to turn that $50,000 into something that's effective enough for us to be able to live off. So maybe we need to adjust our time horizon. I'm 58. Maybe my time horizon doesn't look like 60. Maybe it looks like 70. Again, I'm just making up a number.
Or maybe that time horizon also includes a break or a shift in
That's my
careers.
point.
Yeah.
I have to be realistic about what my objective is. And again, I'm just making up a situation. And so now maybe it's not just this leverage of this $50,000. It's what are the other vehicles I have that I can pull levers on? What are the other assets that I have at play? Do I have equity in my home? Do I have high cash flow? Do I have the ability to start my own business? Do I already have a business that I've started? It's just I'm not leveraging it the way I could to be able to put myself in even better position. Meaning maybe I could take that income from that side business and focus all of that income and intention into a vehicle that can actually build compound interest for me. I go back. My point is, it is different for everyone. It really depends. And it starts out with, what is your goal?
One thing, and I hope if she wants, she can share. She jumps in from time to time, but the reason why she hasn't been able to attend the majority of our live streams, one of our viewers, Miss AB, is because she decided to make a shift instead of retiring early, right? She made a shift that was an income-based shift. So not only does this reduce stress, right? Not only does this help me in this regard, but I also get this income shift, and I have the option to continue, and I wouldn't mind continuing versus I got to get out of here and I can't wait to stop, right? Or I'm going to start making different lifestyle decisions to just like help me cope with this job that I hate or this career that I hate. And sometimes one conversation can help with that and help you to, help to lay everything out on the table, and where decisions can be made is from educated places, in educated spaces. And that's where I think your consultations have really helped a lot of people to make some decisions to put them in a different position.
The way I receive what it is you said is, it's identifying where's your leverage. Because I think what Miss AB identified was, you know what? There's leverage in me taking this role. Because if I take this role now, there's this income that now that I better understand where to put this income, I now have a leverageable vehicle that I can now start using to help me hit whatever that objective is at whatever that date is based off my time horizon. So I think she identified that I have to take a little bit of action to put myself in a position to where I have another vehicle that I can leverage to better help me hit my goal.
Yeah.
And sometimes that might mean, transitioning positions in career wise. I don't know.
Yeah, she was able to crush debt, build wealth, pay off her home, and now she's making less money and working a different shift, but she's happier doing it this way. And she now understands where her exit is, and it's moved up significantly, and which is crazy to think about, that not only is her health improved because she's been able to reduce the amount of stress that she was under, right? But also reduces stress because she was able to crush her debt, like get rid of it, and quickly and swiftly, using the same, making no more money than she was before, right? Yep. Okay. Next one. So for those of you who are asking, like, well, what do? I think it depends on where your leverage is, but hopefully you'll be able to identify where those are. And the reason why it's not, you need to talk to an expert in order to make these decisions, and why we are heavy advocates on you can learn this yourself, is because we're not there to identify your opportunities. When you can make confident decisions and you understand what it is you're doing, like, it feels so much better than I'm just trusting this person that I met on YouTube, or trusting this person that I met online, right? Or this service or this company that's advising me to do these things. And you are educated, you understand why you're making these decisions, and you are in control and you feel confident about that. We believe everybody can do this. And that's why there's not a consultation fee. That doesn't exist over here. It is how can we get the information and arm you with that information? That is the goal. Okay. So Piggy says, would it be fair to say that the reason we call these money instruments vehicles is because money is safest and most profitable when it's permission to move in strategic ways? We were actually just talking about this and trying to come up with a metaphor on how to explain what's going on, because the majority of people, what we don't want them to feel like is that because they've put their money or their trust into a vehicle like the 401k, that they're stupid, or that they made a mistake by doing this, and that somehow their decision or their view on this is the flaw, because that's not true. Right. We were trying to come up with a analogy earlier, and it was around vehicles. Do you want to share it?
Well, I actually, my mind went in a different place, so I'll let you share it.
Okay.
But I'll share with you where my mind was kind of where it had gone, and that is, it's related to the WTF moment. I think we have been conditioned to give financial institutions, life insurance companies, and banks way too much power. And what I'm hoping, the message that I'm hoping to translate as and in calling these vehicles, is that it's just a tool. It's a tool to be used to do other things. So a vehicle is just a tool that allows you to get from point A to point B. It really isn't powerful. It only has enough power that it's only as powerful as the power we give it. So from a WTF perspective, our objective is to help generate wealth. Wealth has nothing to do with a number. Wealth is about you being able to put things in a position so that your money, your lifestyle, things are compounding so that you can have the abundance to be able to take action. It's about time, time. It's about you controlling that time, having full access to that time. It doesn't have a number. It's not a number associated with it. And then the F, freedom. So WTF, the freedom piece is about you being in a position to be able to do what you want to do with whoever you want to do it, when you want it done. Again, it does not have a number tied to it. And the income that you're generating, or the money that you have, the cash flow that's in place, or your 401k, IRA, these are just vehicles. These are just tools in your tool belt to help get you there. That's it. They don't have power. Your Fidelity isn't as smart as you think they are. That bank, when you walked in and said, hey, I'm interested in a home equity line of credit, and they wanted to sell you a mortgage, what you learn is they're just salesmen. They're not as smart as you think they are. Your employer, you think they're doing you a favor, giving you a 5% match. They're really not. They're just trying to keep you quiet so that you don't cause a mutiny, and they're trying to pacify you while they're over here getting the tax benefits. They're really not that smart. So I think we give these vehicles way more power than they deserve, when in truth, they're just meant to be used. They're just meant to be put on your belt and accessed when you need them. They're meant to be leveraged, because that's what these companies are doing with you and your time. They are leveraging you. They're leveraging your time. They're leveraging your money to be able to do other things. You should be doing the same. My objective is just to educate you on how to become them. So in truth, these vehicles are just different things that we can use as leverage. So, sweetheart, I don't know if that's where you were going, but that's where my head went. I apologize.
Yeah, definitely not. However, it's needed to be said. Charles D is in the chat, and he's made some pretty good points and some pretty strong statements too around different vehicles. I don't know if you have seen them come in, because there's a lot of context, I think, in what he was sharing. The part about it, I'll while you dip in there and kind of see if, because the question I was going to pull up was, why is the 401k a scam? But I think he's playing devil's advocate there with some of the other things. So I wanted to just give you a moment to go surf it through there. I'm going to address what he was talking about with the vehicles. I couldn't agree more. One, it's called a currency, current for moving, right? So it has to be able to move in order for it has to be it has to be flowing. It flows through somebody's hands regardless. It's always continuing to flow. I was trying to come up with an analogy so that those who aren't aware of what the 401k or these independent type of retirement vehicles and how they're designed, we were trying to come up with some sort of analogy related to vehicles that if you learned that the majority of people only bought Hyundais and Kias, right? Or Toyotas and Kias. And this was the majority of people have purchased these. We already see how many are breaking down, right? We already know that. We also know that there's only 2 dealerships that they go to get fixed, like get these vehicles fixed. These dealerships are said to have had your back. These dealerships said to have fixed the problem, but you keep having problems and the cars keep breaking down. And there's no other alternatives because these are just the vehicles that exist. These 2 companies, and maybe some of them have different features depending on where you go, but this is all we got. So then you think, well, maybe I'll take it out and I'll take it to a different person who learned how to work on cars all on their own. But then if you do that, you're penalized because now you've like voided the warranty or whatnot, right? I'm talking about taxes and penalties. I was trying to come up with an analogy, but it really just did not gel that's why we didn't talk about it up here. But the idea of having only a couple of options and the people knowing that it is not a secure, guaranteed thing, that these things are breaking down even more so because they're just not made the same, yet we still have to buy them. We still feel like in order for us to check the box that we're doing our best, that we have to get a vehicle. We have to buy one of these things if we want to get to our destination. In the meantime, we're taking anything else knowing that they break down, any extra money that we have, we're buying bikes, right? E-bikes, whatever it is, we're buying extra ways of getting us there in case we have a breakdown, right? Like while this thing is being towed back to where we started, then I'll just ride this bike or I'll just carpool or whatever the case is. I was trying to come up with this analogy, but you're absolutely right. The concept of vehicles, the concept of movement, or when it breaks down, how impactful that could be, right? So yeah, that was where we were going, but obviously that's kind of where it stopped and we didn't fully flesh that out, but hope that made a little bit of sense. Because it was going to be a great idea.
As it relates to Charles D, I agree with everything he's saying. And here's the piece. He basically recited the risk return pyramid.
Okay.
Everything, I don't care what it is. Anywhere you're placing your money, there's going to be a fee associated.
Right.
It's not the elimination of fees. It's understanding what are the fees. For instance, life insurance. If I'm just going to buy a life insurance policy and hope that it's there to benefit me, the guy that created it can structure the fees inside of the product to where he benefits greatly from a commission perspective and otherwise. Or if I understand how to structure life insurance, I can structure it such that the fees are the least amount possible. The life insurance company is going to make their money. How do life insurance companies make their money? Off fees. Like it's going to happen. But it doesn't have to be a compounding fee structure. It can be a decreasing fee structure. Why does that matter? Well, if the fees are decreasing over time, then that means when I need the money the most, when I'm at retirement age, the fees should be at an amount such that they are the smallest. So therefore, my income, I can exceed that 4% rule because the income generating in that vehicle because of compound interest is it generating at a point where I can take more of like a 10, maybe even a 12% percentage of as income on a yearly basis, on an annual basis, because the fee structure has been decreasing over time. Versus if I don't know how these things are structured, or if I don't know what questions to ask, that fee structure could be compounding to the point where when it is time for me to take income, there's really not much income there for me to be able to take. Yeah, I've been able to leverage it and do infinite banking. I've been able to recapture interest leaving, but as far as it being a vehicle that can generate income, Why? Because the fees have been compounding over time. The structure isn't there to actually do what needs to be done. And so it goes whether I'm buying REITs, well, whether I'm investing in commercial properties, land, subject tos, gold, silver, you name it. Everything has a fee. The people that you're leveraging are also going to leverage you, but it's understanding how you're being leveraged and understanding and making sure you're putting yourself in the position to where this becomes a win-win, not a one-sided approach. And I think a lot of times we miss opportunities because we don't understand how they work. So we give the person or the industry or the company way more power than they deserve, and we end up not receiving the benefit that we should because we truly don't understand how they work. So appreciate you, Charles.
Yeah. And really, any insight, it doesn't matter if it's to challenge something that we said. This is a place where conversations
That was
can
a
happen.
challenge?
No, I'm saying that it doesn't matter if it was a challenge.
Yeah, I agree.
This is a place where conversations are meant to happen. We have to have conversations and we have to be able to discuss things. This includes with conversations with your family or your loved ones. If you're constantly around them and they are influenced, or you're influenced by them, or they are influenced by you, I think that this opens the door to the crabs in a barrel, right? Or it's we grow farther and faster when we grow together. These conversations have to become like who's in the boat. If you're new here, we're about to explain what the boat is. The conversations around how can we reach our goals and can we reach our goals together, like this matters. And having a plan is essential. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Knowing where you're going and knowing what the goal is, what the gold is, right, is even more important. All the decisions that we make along the way. And that's why we ask this question and why we give away the boat is based on the Olympic rowing team, their story and all of the decisions and the questions and the commitments that they had as a team to be able to reach their goal. This has been so impactful, not just in our household and with our family, but also in our relationship, right? It doesn't even matter if we're using this question for the sake of reaching our goals or not. Is this the life we want? Is what's happening right now, will it make the boat go faster? This has become like an anthem. And we hope that it's as helpful in your household as it has been in ours and in your family. I'll go ahead and play the video and then we're going to spin for the boat and we're going to give that away, including now it's a whole thing. It's a whole vibe. Yeah, it's a vibe. It's a whole situation now to include goal setting and making sure that you know where it is that you're going and how to set those goals and how to assess them. So that's what we're spending for. Somebody's going to win, but this is why we give away the boat. In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with two obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could or would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth,
adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over.
Oh, I see names popping up. Let's see if it'll spin. If you put boat in the chat, hashtag boat, you'll pop up here. Oh, that's a good sign. Let's see if it works. What? It hasn't been working, so I'm loving that. Who's getting the boat? And the boat's in here, by the way. It's in this box now because the USPS made some changes, so we had to. Maria! Congratulations! Okay, so here's what you do. You go to selfdirected.info/live, and towards the bottom you'll see, did you win the boat? You can click there and then tell us where to send it, and we will pop it in the mail and send it off to you. Congratulations. For anybody who has already received their boat package, this new one, we would love to hear your feedback. Peaky got his, by the way, babe, Peaky got his box, and he sent me the feedback, and I was nearly in tears.
Wow.
The feedback so far has been so positive, and it just lets me know that we're doing the right thing out here, and that we're helping people and we're changing lives, and that, you know, it's amazing to see others bring others along with them. So if you know somebody who needs to tune in, well, get them in here and let's get them a boat.
Well, on that note, how about we give one more away? 'Cause I know we're only giving out one a stream. I know. How about we give one more?
Okay.
Say less.
You ain't gotta tell me twice. Who's it gonna be? Hey! Andrea, one of those two. All right, go to Self-Direct. Congratulations. Go to selfdirected.info/live and claim your boat. Come get your boat. I'm excited for those who have won last Wednesday, won today. We've sent quite a few of these out, and I'm excited to hear some feedback on these as well. So if you didn't get a boat, come back. Come back on Wednesday and get you a boat. Come back and get you a boat. All right, I think we've answered all the questions. If you have any other questions, though, you can also go to selfdirected.info/live. We have a ton of free resources there. Selfdirected.info will just take you to our main landing page where you can have access to the calendar. If you have questions, you would like to book a call with Donnell, his consultations are free. His calendar appointments are free. There's nothing that he has to charge for. That's the purpose of all of this. We have to be able to start conversations, and we have to know where to go, even just to bounce ideas off of and say, hey, what do you think about this, Donnell? Well,
speaking of that, and Piggy, I think it says, I apologize if I'm too much in your chat. Man, you better stay in that chat. How about this? How about you double the activity in the chat? How about that? Matter of fact, and bring your friends. I know you already brought your mom and dad.
He did, and seeing families
awesome.
like congregate in the chat is an amazing thing. But we also know that there's families that tune in, like Zaid. He and his daughters, you know, they tune in all together, and we have a lot of couples who tune in together too. So it's not just, you know, maybe only one of them is in the chat, but we know that they're both watching. And I love that. I could not love that more. Your comments in the chat while we're live, your comments on our videos when you watch them, they help us grow, and it helps get and push the information out to other people. And your support it just means so much to us. So thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate you, because we know that time is the most valuable asset that we have, and we know that you are investing it here with us on these streams. So thank you for that. Okay, we like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
So stay tuned.
Stay protected.
I'm going to hide this banner. Stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique.
And I'm Donnell.
And our goal is to help you.
It's self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources. I'm trying to find it. Why do I always lose this thing? Okay, here we go. And to do that, we have a ton of free resources. We're about to show you how to grab a hold of those. We're back here on Wednesday, every Wednesday, Sunday and Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and all of the standard times in between. We hope to see you back here. And please jump in the chat. This is where we're other people who are learning just like you and changing their lives. You'll find them in there too. We hope to see you soon. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
Get self-directed.